Hi, welcome back. So, sit down, listen up, we've got another good one for you today. Today I woke up, checked my phone, nothing special. I scrolled a little bit and this popped up. Nothing special again, I've seen it 1,000 times. It's just a meme pointing out how Muslims keep taking over these countries. They were Christian and now they're Muslim. But today the penny dropped and I figured out who's doing this. And I bet if I just done a tiny little bit of research, the answer would be fairly obvious. Now, the reason itself isn't so obvious, but I don't think it would be much of a surprise to anybody when we speak about this frequently as conspiracy theorists. But before that, let me give you a quick rundown of how I came to the conclusion. So, if you look at this meme, Lebanon was a Christian country and they've actually been somewhat of an ally to America and thus the United Kingdom for hundreds of years at this point. For example, so you're going back to 1958. At the request of the Lebanese president, the US launched Operation Blue Bat. Thousands of US Marines and army troops deployed to Beirut. Everybody knows about Beirut, everybody, on that, that's fairly documented. So we'll move on. Second country in the list of converters is Syria. And America have been documented to have both covert and diplomatic ties to this country. Now, what that means when they say covert is most likely military operations, someone going in causing a coup in the country and, overthrowing the government. They also fought with the Americans in the fight against ISIS in 2014. Now, so keep that in mind. And then next up, Iraq. Again, American and subsequently the UK went to Iraq in 2001, spent 20 years stealing their oil and all that good stuff. But they were also there in the 90s, the 70s and before that. Again, Iraq has got a long documented history of American involvement. We don't need to go on and document it any further here. I'm sure you all know America trained Saddam Hussein, paid for him, he was a supposed CIA agent, and then on top of that Saddam Hussein became the leader of Iraq and the American government overthrew him. That's fairly well known. So next up, Turkey, or Turkey, again I think they've changed their name. Again, going back to the end of the Ottoman Empire, which the USA and Turkey were rivals, they were fighting against each other, and as soon as America won that perceived war, the Turks changed their government and the Americans swooped in and of course forged a working alliance. Right up until recently there, Turkey was on the American side of the Cold War and joined NATO shortly after. So next up, Egypt. Again, Egypt and America have actually had deep ties since 1920, and since the 1970s Egypt have been part of the biggest recipients of US funding, so they're allies, and America has had, funding links to Egypt for almost 50 years at this point now. He's starting to see a little bit of a pattern forming. Now, next up, Libya. I mean, this is just the USA light at this point. They've been in it so many times, they've overthrew so many governments. The USA has been shaping the country from tensions in the 80s. There was the Lockerbie bombing. They've forced them to disarm in 2003. And now the famous Benghazi attack. That was made famous by the fact that it was publicised because Hillary Clinton was lying about it in her emails. And then she subsequently went on and deleted all those emails with a fucking hammer. So I never got charged or anything like that there, but so that's why you may have heard of that. And when it turned out that the government, they've had quite a bit of involvement in the shenanigans taking place in Syria. If you remember back to Gaddafi when they overthrew the communist dictator who killed all these people and stole all the money. And the only problem with that is history's been on to show that wasn't the case. I mean, not only if his people wanted to be, say, a farmer, the government would pay 50 grand for the stuff you need and provided the land for you to be a farmer. He also wanted to move away from the American petrodollar and create, it was rumoured to be something called the Afro, which would be the same sort of thing as the Euro, what the EU done for Europe. And he said he was supporting international terrorism when America went in and overthrown them, which is just Americanese for they wanted away from the petrodollar and they didn't really back America in anything they'd done. So it was more of a resistance. So anything America can't control, they'll go in and take. Now next up, Tunisia. Again, some of the countries on this list date back to before World War One, and some slightly before that. But Tunisia, has had alliances with the United States since 1799. Tunisia was one of the first countries to recognise the newly formed USA, and as recent as 2015, they're one of the biggest non-NATO parties to be allied with the American troops. So, and again, that's one of them things where they've got a long documented history. If you go back to the 1980s, I think it was, they actually had a bit of a falling out. Did a wee brief rain check on their romance because Israel bombed Tunisia. And America, of course, took America's side, as always. So, straight up, we'll go with Algeria. This is the next country on the list. Again, the United States and Algeria have a detailed history of it's a love-hate relationship. It's that they're on and off again. This is another one that goes back to the 1780s with the newly formed USA. They're said to have a storied history between allies and enemies that just floating back and forward. It's that there's no alliance or anything between them, but they seem to come and go. Even in the 80s, there was a good relationship, and once again, Algeria's good relationship with America was severed because America took Israel's side when Israel targeted Algeria, which was a thing that actually became known as the 6-Day War. Again, America have taken Israel's side on a conflict that Israel caused, once again confirming just how special that American-Israeli partnership is. Again, I'll ask you, seen the common theme in the Middle East? And finally, I don't think we can actually wrap the video up without talking about America and Israel, as a duo in the Middle East and the battles that they have right now, with the growing Muslim population, in the Middle East. Anyone else know this pattern of America, Western capitalistic government that constantly meddles with multiple Middle Eastern communist governments? So you've just watched that. So you have the US military might, Israelis funding Hamas, the big bad Muslims who are on a religious mission. Turns out they're just being funded by Israelis.
There was one hiccup though. Bennett's government suspected that the money was being used for other purposes. So they roped in a middleman, the United Nations, and they began a new arrangement. Now Qatar had to give money to the UN, and the UN would distribute it in Gaza. What did Israel do? Help transfer the money and keep track of its usage to see where it was being spent.
Can I just start by asking you what is your view of whether your government, your military, has done a good enough job of proving their claim that there was a major command center and bunker under Al-Shifa?
It's already known for many years that they have in the bunkers that originally was built by Israeli constructors underneath Shifa, were used as a command post of the Hamas and a kind of a junction of several tunnels, part of the system. I don't know to say to what extent it is a major. It's probably not the only kind of command post. Several others are under other hospitals or in other sensitive places, but it's for sure had been used by Hamas even during this conflict.
Well, when you say it was built by Israeli engineers, did you misspeak?
No, decades ago we were running the place. So we helped.
That as well should explain to you why when Israel and Hamas Israel and Palestine called the ceasefire, Hamas went on to steal all the food and slaughter hundreds of Palestinians because they're not in the war for religious honor. They're being paid and they're mercenaries to the elite. That's all it is. And so the more you actually dig into it, the more it's obvious that that's what's happening. Now, I've just shown you a video of the current and the former prime ministers of Israel, just letting you know how Hamas is vital to their push for the Greater Israel Project, because they need a bad man. They need a bad man to be able to go into all these countries and continue to fuck them up, because if they don't have a bad man where they can go into all these countries and fuck them up, then people will just start seeing Israel for what it is, and that's what's happened. So, just a wee thing to think about as well. So, you even look back at the Crusades. Do you think Christian men want to go across seas, slaughter hundreds of thousands of other men who happen to be Muslim? No, because it contradicts their beliefs. If you look at the armed forces today, who goes and signs up for duty and people think, oh, he's going to make something of himself. Poor lad, he hasn't missed a day of church in about 17 years. How's he going to cope? Going and just changing his complete life philosophy and blowing cunts up? No, that doesn't typically happen, because God-fearing religious men that go into this line don't go into this line of work. Now, I'm not saying that after you've been in the line of work, you might not turn to God once you've seen some shit, but we all know it isn't the typical Bible bashing, Jesus quoting, rosemary beads or sash toting men that sign up for military action. So when we're looking at Muslim foreign invaders, we're not looking at the patterns above their actions. How come the most capitalistic country in the world just happens to have diplomatic ties and rumoured to be involved in several coups against these countries who put their own government so communism doesn't take over, but at the same time, every country they seem to touch seem to get Christian washed, I suppose. It was like whitewashed, and it flips its major religious majority. How come America, one of the biggest Christian countries in the world, when I say biggest, I mean you look at like coming out of the war, that's what American propaganda was. It was, you know, the mum, the dad, the 3 kids, the perfect family. You get up on the Sunday, you go to church, you say God bless America every morning. It's, you know, you salute the flag, and that's what American propaganda of what America was for so long. Even now, it's like you'll get people who thank others for their service. You know, it's like someone tells you you're in an army over here, you go, all right, mate, cool. Do you see the football? You know, but that's what I'm saying. It was that culture and that propaganda was pumped into America in the 50s. Now, that's not a coincidence. Regards to the majority shift in religion, coincidences don't happen. So that's maybe not 100% proof that you're being replaced, but it is 100% proof that every country America seems to go into has the same problem. Religious men don't want to cause harm. Moderately good men don't want to cause harm. So you've got to understand that these people are being paid. They're mercenaries. They're not religious. And you've got to stop using religion as a Trojan horse to all these wars, because you should wake up and see it for what it is. The rich get richer. And like, once you understand where these problems are coming from and who's making it happen, I don't know the exact reason why, but after the videos I've seen and stuff like that, it's a lot to do with the Greater Israel Project. Again, the Greater Israel Project doesn't just come from, you know, Israel wanting to usurp all this land. There's much, much, much deeper religious meanings behind it as well. Again, it's their pursuit to build the 3rd temple and stuff like that. It's stuff that if you don't pay attention to religion, you'll never understand, and why the politicians keep pushing these things ahead, because it's on the agenda, it's political, it's religious, and they're trying to get it done. It's in a lot of the books, where it's that once they build the 3rd temple, it'll bring on the end days and stuff like that. It's you've got to understand that it's like what they're doing in order to make you believe it's coming, you know. And I know the video's been very America-centric from my UK followers, but remember, we've got an also special relationship with America. So when they go into these countries, we are too, you know. So, and don't wonder why people from these countries flood the UK and already don't like us, don't like Britain, or don't like Brits. That's why. And if you still don't know who's replacing you in the UK, because we're not run by America, surely we must have our own people that do it. We must have our own guys that do it. Here's a wee video.
The murder of an MP in West Yorkshire, and now so.
Remember, 'tis better to remain silent and be thoughtful than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
The Muslim community showed the world the true face of Islam as a religion of peace and understanding. I was very moved by the stories of the great distances that your friends and families travelled to support you in your time of need, even when your previous connections had not always been frequent. They travelled here to support you because you were family, and that is what families do. They drop everything when it is needed. People of all faiths and backgrounds can learn a great deal from how the Muslim families affected by the 15th of March attacks rallied around their loved ones.
For more British contact, have a watch.
Assalamu alaikum. In this milestone anniversary year,
have a watch.
Assalamu alaikum. In this milestone anniversary year, I can only say that it is with enormous pride and admiration that I join you all here today to pay tribute to this remarkable centre as it celebrates 4 decades of unfailing work to broaden our understanding of the Islamic world and
as the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. Hope that you have a blessed and fulfilling Ramadan.
And that leads me to my next point. Silly season, everybody excited? Where's all my Protestants at? Looking forward to silly season, yeah? Can't wait to get the flags out and the drums. Every band, every lodge singing God Save the King and preaching loyalism. That was your king, and your next king, picking their side. So if you believe that they're being replaced by Muslims and it's all about, you know, a whitewashing of Christian culture, that's who's doing it. Again, just goes to show these things that loyalism and or Ulster paramilitaries or Irish Catholic ones, they're not who they claim to be. They're not religious. There's not a religious man within those ranks. So that's what I'm saying. When you're dealing with these people, stop thinking you're dealing with religious men with religious intent. And I've got the, like as I said, sorry, I've spent the majority of the video telling you how these men are not religious. They're not Muslims. They've not come from Muslim countries, or they may have come from Muslim countries and they may be of the Muslim faith, but they're not practicing religious people who follow religious texts. And I've got a question to, with loyalism being a staunch set of supporters from the Protestant side, and being technically a Protestant and stuff like that there again, I don't follow religion. So my question is, what's more important to you? Loyalism, loyalist to a king, or the so-called religion that you proclaim to be a part of that tells you in the book itself, do not trust man or kings? There's one, and there's one. I mean, it tells you many times. So you can get up, blow your flute, smash your drums, wear your sash, sing God Save the King, but you're contributing to the whitewashing of your country. Just know that. I'll leave you with that today. Like, comment, subscribe. All the best.